Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Hearthstone's new core set is coming and I've already done a couple of videos analyzing various aspects of the core set, and in this video I want to focus on the cards that have been changed. Blizzard has changed a total of 51 cards for the core set. Some of them have been buffs and some of them have been nerfs, and all of these changes to existing cards also will affect Wild. The Wild versions of the cards are also changed at the same time as the core set versions come out. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's go take a look at what cards have been changed. There's only one card change for Demon Hunter, and that is the Warglaives of Azinot. It's back to 5 mana, but it has lost 1 durability. So okay, seems like a decent enough weapon right now, but still not quite what it used to be back in the day. Druid has 4 cards that are going to be buffed. Margot of Wild is going to give minions +2/+3 in taunt, instead of +2/+2, so bit of a buff. Actually looking like a pretty nice buff card now for its mana cost. Druid of the Claw is going to get 1 more attack in all of its forms, 5/4 rush, 5/6 taunt. Okay, it's kind of mediocre still, probably doesn't see play. Menagerie Warden is going to be a little bit cheaper. Choose a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. Menagerie Warden was always a card that had promise, but it was never really a card that actually got to see much play. Its main use is the effect, so any mana cost decrease of course makes it more playable, so it will be interesting to see if it's playable now. And Scenarios is going to cost 1 less mana at 8, and that's a pretty major buff, and Scenarios looks like a nice top-end card right now. 2 Hunter cards have been changed. Lock and Load is coming back, and it's only going to cost 1 mana. And this also missed that in Wild it's only going to cost 1 mana. Obviously, Lock and Load decks were kind of meme decks, but still that's a major improvement for the card. And tracking is going to be changed. It's going to be discover a card from your deck. So it no longer discards cards from your deck, and most of the time that's an upside, so I consider this to be a fairly good buff to tracking. And also lots of people who were reluctant to use tracking before might be able to use it now. There are a lot of changes for the Mage cards. From standard format, Mage is going to lose most of their free spells, and the free spells that are going to be included are those that were really bad before. They have both been buffed. Snap Freeze at 1 mana, Cone of Gold at 3 mana. They still look pretty bad though, I don't think that's going to be good at all. Ethereal Conjurer is going to get 1 extra health, and alright, it seems like a decent enough playable card. Coldheart Drake is also going to get 1 more health. It has Ogre stats now. Hey, Ogre stats are good stats. And maybe a bit of a surprise buff to Flame Strike, dealing 5 damage to all enemy minions, so Flame Strike's just got quite a bit better. Paladin is also going to get a bunch of buffs. Argent Protector is going to get 1 attack, so 2 mana 3/2 with a nice effect, that's pretty good. It does require that you have something on the board when you play it, but it looks a little bit more playable now than it did. Holy Light is going to restore 8 health instead of 6 health, but only to your hero. It's unlikely that Paladin can actually afford to run a card like that, but okay, looks nice. Equality is going to have its nerf partially reverted. It's going to be a 3 mana change the health of all minions to 1. Okay, that's good. Some more board clears for Paladin, that's nice. The last 2 buffs are the most interesting ones. Guardian of Kings is going to get Taunt. 7 mana 5/7 Taunt that heals your hero. That looks like borderline playable card in some archetypes. Probably still a little bit too weak, but definitely with Taunt it's much better than it used to be. And Warhorse Trainer is going to get 1 additional attack. It's going to be a 3 mana 3/4 with an upside. So that's already a good stat line, that upside. This sort of dude Paladin deck, there might be something to it. The Priest card changes are a little bit weird, I have to say. Shadow Form, okay, 2 mana, your hero power becomes deal 2 damage. But they have removed the Shadow Form buff. You can't no longer play 2 copies of Shadow Form and get a hero power to deal 3 damage. And I think that actually makes Shadow Form kind of bad right now. So even though they brought it back with much fanfare, it just looks weak right now. Whereas Lightspawn, 3 mana, it's going to be a 4/4 when it hits the board, instead of 4 mana being a 5/5. I think Lightspawn is slightly improved here. And Priest also had a lot of ways to increase the health of their minions, so Lightspawn could become an important part of future Tempo Priest decks. Several rogue cards are being changed. Swashbuckler at a random class from another class, so no longer your opponent's class. So this is much better when you need cards from something else than rogue, and if you're playing a rogue mirror, Swashbuckler still works, so that's great. Patient Assassin is going to get 1 point of health, so it's a 1/2 with stealth and poisonous, and that's actually pretty interesting because that 1/2 is so much more difficult to remove than a 1/1 when it's in stealth. Assassin's Blade is going to become more of a platform for weapon buffs than it used to be. 4 mana 2/5 weapon. Obviously as long as Self-Sharpening Sword is around, that Assassin's Blade is totally useless, but once the sword goes away, maybe If there are suitable weapon buffs, this platform could be useful. Assassinate is going to be cheaper at 4 mana, but it's still pretty bad. And Sprint is going to be cheaper at 6 mana, but Rogue's card draw is so insane right now that no one is going to play that. There are also a bunch of Shaman buffs. Feral Spirit has its Overload toned down to 1, okay, it makes it semi-playable. Draenei Totem Carver gains 1 health, becomes a 4 mana 4/5 with an upside. That's actually looking like a pretty playable card to me. Lightning Storm. Go away randomness. No longer 2 to 3 damage, it's now always 3 damage, and that's a pretty good one. Tidal Surge is going to have lifesteal instead of that healing effect, so it's weaker if you use it on Divine Shield minions, but it's stronger elsewhere because it heals you more if you have spell damage. Earth Elemental, Overload is toned down a little bit, Fire Elemental is going to get a bit bigger battle cry, deals 4 damage, and Alakir is going to get 1 more health, so a little bit of improvement here and there, and in some cases like Lightning Storm and Feral Spirit, these are actually quite major buffs. A number of interesting changes for Warlock coming in. Drain Soul, lifesteal deal 3 damage to a minion. It used to be 2 damage, so Drain Soul might actually become part of Warlock's healing package with that buff. Very important buff. Void Terror getting 1 more health, but it's kind of useless anyway. Lakari Fellhound, the discard effect has been changed. It's now discard your 2 lowest cost cards instead of discarding 2 cards. And depending on what your lowest cost cards are going to be, what sort of discard synergies there are, this could be a major improvement. But if you want to discard something like a Hand of Cooldown with that, then yeah, then it's kind of tough. Siphon Soul is getting a buff, it's going to cost only 5 mana. Siphon Soul was already a card that I used occasionally, and I think that's a great buff for the card, really looking sweet as hard removal. And Lord Jaraxxus, a major buff for Lord Jaraxxus. You still get the same weapon, you still get the same hero power, you don't lose your health, you get 5 armor instead, so wow, Lord Jaraxxus is back. Only one change for Warrior, Warzone Commander, have to summon another minion, give it Rush, so you kind of have like a 3 mana animated broomstick here. I don't see why you want to use a 3-mana animated broomstick, but who knows. Then probably the most controversial things that are coming, the big nerfs to charge. Stone Tusk Boar is going to have Rush, Bluegill Warrior is going to have Rush, and these changes also affect Wild. All the decks that were playing with these charge minions are going to be useless now. So that's a major whiff on Blizzard's part. I can't believe that they did this instead of making new cards if they wanted to have Rush minions in Standard. But yeah, that just killed a bunch of decks. Then there's some minor buffs. Flesh-Eating Ghoul is going to get 1 more attack. Okay, that's pretty sweet. 3 mana 3/3 with an upside. Still too weak to see play, of course. And Mini Mage buff is actually interesting. Mini Mage used to be a 4 mana 4/1 with stealth and spell damage +1. Now it's a 3 mana 3/1 with stealth and spell damage +1. And that actually does make Mini Mage more usable, because having that minion in stealth with that spell damage, that's potentially powerful. But you don't want to pay too much mana for it. It would be even better if it was like a 2 mana 2/1 with stealth, but I guess you can't have it all. And next up we have Raid Leader. It's going to be a 3 mana 2/3 or other minions have +1 attack. It's still pretty useless. Big Game Hunter. Nerf has been partially reverted. It used to be 3 mana, then it was nerfed to 5 mana. Now it has been brought a little bit back to 4 mana. 4 mana 4/2, destroy a minion with 7 or more attack. Situationally useful, depending on the meta, it's a tech card. It might see play. Defender of Argus is going to get its attack back, 4 mana 3/3, but it's still kind of weak for what's going on in Hearthstone right now. And Bashir Berserker is going to gain 1 more health. So 2/8, that's a lot of health, but it's probably still not enough because of all the setup time that it takes to get Bashir Berserker really going. Cairn Bloodhoof is getting a buff, an old classic staple, but then it just became too weak. Now it's a 6 mana 5/5 with a death roll summon another 5/5. And that's borderline playable. We might see some decks that would actually use Cairn in the future. Seems interesting. High Inquisitor Whitemane is going to become a little bit cheaper, lose some stats, but that's alright, it's for the effect anyway. Too bad that the effect is pretty bad. You have to be ahead in order to make any use of it, and I don't think it's going to see any play. Baron Geddon is going to get a couple of more health points from 7/5 to a 7/7. Yeah, situationally useful. Could be a tech card in some metagames. And Stormwind Champion is going to get a couple of stat points from 6/6 to 7/7. Probably still going to be useless though. And finally we have Baron Stablehand getting a little bit of stat buff, but it's still a bad card. And then we have Arcane Devourer from 8 mana 5/5 to an 8 mana 4/8. And that's actually pretty interesting, depending on what the meta is going to look like, what sort of removal there is. Arcane Devourer has a big potential upside, and it now has stats to actually survive a little bit, but 8 mana doesn't do anything immediately, it's probably still too weak to actually see play. So 51 changes also going to apply to Wild. Most of them are not going to matter. A little bit of stat points here, a little bit of stat points there, of course that weren't good enough to see play anyway. Most likely they still won't see any play. A couple of really hard-hitting nerfs, the Stone Dusk Boar, the Bluegill Warrior, nerfing that charge also from Wild. That really hurts, I don't know what Blizzard was thinking there. And there are some meaningful buffs like Lord Jaraxxus and Siphon Soul, where cards that were playable or borderline playable are going to get a little bit better, and I think we're going to see a lot of them. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.